Hello, this is Quentin Carton. I'm part of the Automation Engine specialist team, and this is an attempt to show you how you can use this shared demo environment to demonstrate the end-to-end use case of the setup direct deposit process. When I start the demonstration, before the demonstration, I'll kind of always expose or explain the different components we're going to be showing or the customer is going to see in the demo. And this is Automation Engine. All those components, Integration Hub, RPA Hub, DocIntel, and Automation Center will be shown in that demonstration. The process we are we're using as an example, as I said, is a direct deposit setup. Imagine a new employee that's joining a company. As part of his onboarding process, he or she is asked to update or send a void check so he can get his first payment, first salary payment. So the initiation of the process could be a manual task or an email that is sent to Able Tutor or Brandon there. And he will be sending his void check via email or via ServiceNow. I'm showing on that slide the current manual process and what it is we're solving next. Next slide, we'll see the component we use and how we've automated the whole process. So in that slide, we want to illustrate repetitive task and manual task when someone is initiating that direct deposit process. So this person is submitting the check, and then in the back end, we have a process fulfiller that needs to open the document, extract the information from the document, and then do some verification from those documents, maybe take the check account number on the check, the routing number, and verify that those information are valid. Maybe she's going to an external system, verify that that's correct banking information. So that's what she will be doing, maybe using a web app or a legacy application. And then the last step, once you verify the banking, it could be another person. Here we show the same person. It could be another team that's going to actually update the banking information in a payroll system. And the payroll system, in our case, we use the fake application that we've created. But most of our customers, they may be, especially the large customers, maybe using ADP to manage, the payment for their employees. In our case, we use Acme Payday, but someone go manually in this legacy app that has no API and perform data entry and multiple click, multiple time a day, every time there is someone initiating that process. So that's the part we're going to be automating as well. So that's a big picture, macro view of that process. And then next slide, I'm going to be showing to you the process automated. The component I already mentioned, the component we use, Automation Center, was not shown in the process, but it's the component we want to showcase to explain that even before we build the automation and we run it, we can use automation COE leaders or automation COE team. The customer can use Automation Center to capture requirements about the processes and also prioritize and vet those IDs, those potential automated automation candidates, and then track the life cycle of that request. And from the technical requirements, the design, the building the process, and then running it and tracking execution status. Once we run the automation, everything can be managed under Automation Center. So we'll see in the demo how I show this. DocIntel will be used to help extract the data automatically from the void check, and then Integration Hub will leverage that metadata that DocIntel has extracted and verify that the information from the check, extracted from the check, are valid. It may not be 100% sure that the check is a valid check with valid banking number and things like that. And we just want to illustrate in that demo that once you extract data on the platform, we can take that data and maybe verify that data against a specific API using our low-code Spoke. So we're using a Spoke in Integration Hub that I've created to demonstrate that. And the last step is performing the data entry in the legacy Acme PD app, which is the payroll system. So this is where normally someone will go manually and create my profile as a new employee and put my banking information so I can get my direct deposit set up. And we automate this with RPA Hub. So the ultimate view of that automated process can look like this. So we Able Tutor in that demo will use a catalog item, actually a record producer, and submit his void check. And then we have a workflow and multiple workflows that are driving the rest of the steps. And the workflow at some point is picking up the attachment from the record and asking DocIntel to process a task in DocIntel and extract the data and assign the value in a specific custom table we created, the values from the check. We store that in ServiceNow, and then we have another workflow that's going to be executed, and it's going to be using Integration Hub and a Spoke to validate those banking information we have extracted, validate them against an API, and you have the URL of that API. You could open it in a web browser and show it to the customer so that they can see what it is we're integrating with. And the last step is once we are validated the routing number and marked it as validated in our data model, we have another workflow taking that information and putting this as a work queue item in RPA Hub. So now the robot can open the legacy app and perform the data entry. In the demonstration, you'll see when I demonstrate, I decided that I want to trigger the robot manually directly from Studio, so it's easier for the demo flow, for the pace. But if you think it's a good idea to trigger the robot automatically, we could implement this in the next release of that shared demo environment. For the moment, I like to control my demo pace and flow. So once the work item is in the queue, I take my time to explain RPA Studio. I show the process that we've designed in Studio, and then I click the run button so they can actually see what's going on the screen. Otherwise, it's pretty hard to see when it's fully unattended. So this is just to explain what it is you're going to see in the demonstration, and I'm going to be showing to you how I demonstrate the end-to-end process using that shared demo environment. And it's just an example. Feel free to make this your own demo script or demo flow. I like to start the end-to-end demo by showing Automation Center, and just to explain, okay, before we spend time building workflows, the Spoke, and configure DocIntel and create the robot, in real life, someone from a stakeholder or process owner from payroll or HR will have submitted some kind of request. So me, as an automation leader, I can look at the request and decide if I want to deliver and fulfill that request, meaning have my team spending time building the automation for that process. So it's a very useful solution that we have that not only can be used for our RPA customers, but any customers that have automation tools and want some kind of a single pane of glass to track all those requests and manage the life cycle of that request. There's a lot more you can say, and we'll come back at the end of the demo when we talk about saving and the visibility we bring into ROI and saving. At the beginning of the demo, I often start with showing how the request came in from a stakeholder, from the payroll team, for example. So I'm showing those automation requests that I can review as a leader, as part of the automation COE of the customer. I can open that request and decide what I want to do with it. So I can review the frequency of that process, the time spent per run, which business application that process use. So it's very useful information for me as I'm starting to look at the request. I can kind of get a sense of the complexity of how I'm going to be automating, what capabilities of the platform or even off platform I can be using to automate this. So if I have a ServiceNow RPA, I can look at the ServiceNow RPA to automate the payroll app. Or if we have Blue Prisms automation anywhere, that's fine too. We could, but at least all this information helps me make decision. So I can see how this is aligned to actual company goals, so reduce errors and increase efficiency. I can look at the priority and expected savings. So there's no data there, but I can probably put update the demo data here. So I'm going to just put 2 hours based on the numbers we see. Because imagine I could probably have 50 requests I need to vet and prioritize. I can decide whether or not I want to move forward. And there is a life cycle. I won't go too deep into the detail, but you can change the life cycle of that request and start working on it and assign tasks to people. One of the tasks I will be assigning, it's maybe assigning a specific task to one of my team members so you can start doing the technical requirement gathering. So you can create a new task, and maybe it's technical requirement meeting, and I'm going to be assigning this to the RPA team and start putting some details. So I'm going to be using Automation Center to start interacting with my team, but also interacting with process owner and stakeholder to gather more documents, screenshot, or even recording of the process. So we can already start building that automation. I'm just going to set this. I'll let you judge how much time you want to spend on Automation Center for that demo flow. If you want to do an end-to-end demo and you only have 20 minutes, I think that's pretty much what the time you want to spend on Automation Center. But again, you can make this your own demo script based on the customer need. So the next step I will be showing is how we actually trigger that use case. So now we've seen how we take a request from a stakeholder to decide to automate that process. Now let's consider it's all automated. I'm going to be showing to you the process. To kick off the process is to submit a void check as able tutor. So I'm going to just switch the screen and connect as able tutor, impersonate as able tutor. So let's initiate the process. I'm connected as able tutor. So I was connected as admin. I impersonated as able tutor. And in the favorites, we put the link to the record producer. So here we want to show how we initiate that process. So I'm onboarding, I'm able tutor, and I want to submit my void check. I could do it from my mobile phone, open the ServiceNow mobile app, and maybe we have a chatbot conversation topic for this, and I can just take a screenshot or a picture with my phone. Here, it's easier, we think, to demonstrate this directly from the laptop. But feel free to explain the different ways to submit document from using ServiceNow, the mobile app, or the chatbot, or the UI, or any custom workspace. I'm attaching my void check that we have previously downloaded, and here I'm submitting the void check, and click submit. At this point, a record is created on the platform. You can see the record number. This goes to a custom table we created for that demo. And oftentimes I like to show the attachment and zoom a little bit and explain what it is it's gonna happen after this. We submitted the check. There is an attachment attached to that record, and we are attempting with the automation using DocIntel to extract the routing number, the account number, the name of that person, and the bank, the bank information. All of this to put in our custom table, so we can actually then use that metadata to set up the direct deposit on the payroll app. So from this screen, I like to show the table in ServiceNow. So I'm going to switch, and we're not going to be using able tutor anymore. Just going to switch as admin and show you the banking table. So if you connect as admin on this demo instance and you go on favorite bank account table, then you can see the new record being created. So the number should match the number we just seen in the previous screen. So let me refresh a little bit. Let me refresh. It should take just a few seconds. You should see the record. Don't pay attention in that recording. The number don't match the request I just submitted before. I submitted from the wrong instance, so I had to resubmit. So don't ignore the number. But that it should look like this. You get a new record for Able Tutor, because we know it's the employee Able Tutor who submitted this, and DocIntel is performing things behind the scenes. So at this point, we can show the workflows that are actually asking DocIntel to process the file, extract the information. So when you show this, you can show the before and after, show that the record is there, there's no data, that the data has not been validated yet, it's not synchronized with the payroll system, the payroll app. So you can go and Flow Designer and show the flow behind the scene. As I explained when I was presenting, it's all workflow driven. So it's a bunch of flow in Flow Designer based on status on that table that's gonna trigger the execution in DocIntel, RPA, etc. So I'm in Flow Designer, and you can show this depending on your audience. If they want to see the behind the scene, you can show it. I'll let you judge what's good for your customer. You can see the flow DocIntel extract value flow. So that's the flow that was executed automatically. It's DocIntel is configured to use a bunch of workflows to process those files as they come as attachment on that specific table. And if you refresh, I have some other schedule flow that's going to take the metadata and validate against that API that the routing number is correct. So at this point, I see the extraction happen. So if you go back to the previous screen, you should see you should see the metadata on that record now. Let's try to see it. So I'm back to the banking table and I refresh, reload the page. And now you see the information is there automatically. So we didn't have any sort of human intervention, and the data is even validated. It's validated because we have a workflow that is scheduled to run every minute to monitor that table. And every time there's a new metadata coming in, the workflow is taking those information and validate the data against that routing number API. You can actually show that workflow if you think it's valuable for the customer. I'm going to share it with you, but feel free to show it or not based on your audience. So right after the extraction flow, so we already looked at it, you should see my scheduled workflow that run every minute. And this is looking at the table, the banking table, and see if there is a new record with metadata in it. And it's looking at the record and goes to that routing number API. So we've created a simple Spock that's gonna, take that routing number from that custom table and go outside of the platform using REST API, the REST API, and validate that it's actually, the information from the routing number match the information given to us on the check. So you see there's different status, okay, the name of the bank. And so now we've validated and we've put some business logic. Hey, if the return, it's a simple one. If the return of the API is okay and the name of the bank match the name we've seen or extracted from with DocIntel, we think that the information are valid and we update the record, meaning we set the validated column to true. And so at this point, feel free to open the flow here and inspect the Spock, and if the customer is really interested how you build the Spock or not. But it may be too much time to spend on this. So now we've seen the workflow doing all of that. I want to show you the configuration in Document Intelligence. So I'm going to switch to the Document Intelligence screen so you can see how the extraction has been done. Still connected as admin on my instance. In the favorite bar, you should see, I'm not sure if I put it, you should see the Document Intelligence administration link. For your information, this is brand new as the time of the recording is December 16, 2022. And we just released 3 weeks ago that new plugin is basically the new experience, a new workspace experience for DocIntel. So it's probably better to show DocIntel from that view. So here, make sure you explain which persona is going to be using this. In my team, as an automation COE, I may have someone expert in RPA, someone expert in integration, and I could have an expert in intelligent document processing. So that will be that person specialized in IDP, intelligent document processing, who is going to be configuring what we call DocIntel task definition. And you can see them, the one that we've used for that demo. If you want to inspect it in front of the customer, that's this one, extract info from the void check. Feel free to talk about those widgets if you think you have time to do so. I just want to review the configuration so you are comfortable talking about this. So you can go find and edit the task definition here. And you can see it took me only 5 minutes to configure this. It's very important to explain this to the customer when you demonstrate this. It's a really low maintenance solution, DocIntel. It took me literally 5 clicks to create the task definition, define the 4 keys I want from the 4 information I want from the check. And I've trained the system maybe 5 or 6 times to get a good confidence score to enable the straight-through processing. But the thing you want to highlight to the customer is this. You say you create a task definition. It's basically telling DocIntel that there is a new type of document from which you want to extract data. And when you extract data, you want to tell DocIntel to put values extracted in a specific table. And that is our banking table that we already seen before. So feel free to open it and show the information about it. You can explain that when you create a configuration in DocIntel, one of the first steps you do is to tell DocIntel what are the keys, the placeholder, basically where are you going to put the information you extract from the check. We call this keys. So bank name, routing number, account name, and account holder. And when we talk about training the model is when you review the data extracted and you validate that the information extracted goes to the right key, to the right information. You want to make sure that the actual number we extract goes to the routing number. So this, you train this like 5 or 6 times and the system can do it automatically after. And this is where you also configure the keys for the extraction and match this to type this to the target field on the banking table, on my custom table. So when we extract the bank name from the check, it's going to go to the bank name field on my record on my banking table. So that's basically it. Feel free to show, if you want to show the DocIntel UI and explain that, show the experience for a person who may validate the extraction. In our use case, it's fully automated. So we use the straight-through processing, but it may be valuable for the customer to see a task. So you go in extract keys and we expose those tasks there. So I'm going to open this one. This is from today at the time of the recording. And you can click on the link open in DocIntel. Make sure to explain that the customer will only see that type of screen when they train the system the first time, or when the confidence score, the extraction, we don't have a confidence score high enough to trust the system. So we want to review manually. Sometimes it could be a legal reason where someone has to review the extraction before we actually trust the data. But see, if I click on the first key, you can see there is a confidence score. So we can explain this. This is our prediction, the prediction that the DocIntel is coming back to us with, okay, the string able tutor needs to go in the account holder key. So it's 96% sure that this block of text needs to go in the account holder keys. And it's a pretty high score, and I've configured the system to trust. If it's above 60%, we trust the extraction, we enable the straight-through processing. But this is how someone will review the keys and retrain the system if the system has made a mistake, because say, no, this is not the number I was expecting, this is this other block of text. And every time you make a modification and you click submit, this is retraining the system. So next time the confidence score will be better. So again, this is up to you to show this, but this works in the shared demo environments. Feel free to show it. Now that we explain how Able Tutor submits the void check, we review the different workflows that are kind of interacting with DocIntel and extracting the data, assigning the value to the record. Kind of the last step is the RPA automation. For RPA automation to happen, we have a workflow that is actually adding those metadata from the record to an RPA queue. So I'm going to be showing this right now. And then we'll be running the robot. So I'm showing probably more than you should show to the customer, but I want you to understand the plumbing so you can explain if they ask question. So there's a workflow that's taking the metadata from the banking table and adding it to the queue in RPA Hub. So you can find it, it's called direct deposit, add work item in the queue. When a bank account record is updated with status validated, meaning we've checked against the API that the information is correct, we take the metadata and create a work item in the RPA queue for it. So just wanted to show you that piece. Now we're gonna, what is, I think, good to show to the customer is the RPA Hub screen and show the queue and how we pass that metadata to RPA and the robot. So to show the RPA queue and show the RPA UI, I'm still connected as admin, and you have a favorite there. Just click on RPA process automation. This should open the RPA workspace. I'm not going to teach you or tell you how you can talk about this. You probably don't have to go into this detail if you want to show the direct deposit end-to-end demo. Usually I explain very briefly the different concept and then quickly jump into the queue to show how we've passed the data from the record to the workflow, and the workflow is passing the data to the specific RPA robot. So it's probably good to explain the concept of the queue, explaining that the robot can be considered as digital workers, and this is how you can assign tasks and work to those robots. And there's many ways to trigger the robot. One of the ways to add an item in the queue, and then maybe you have some scheduled bot process that's going to be monitoring that queue and pick work item as they come in the queue. So here you can show the pending work item in the RPA queue. So this came from the workflow that took the metadata from the banking API and created automatically the new work item for the bot. And it's status pending because there's no robot taking it right now, because for the demo purpose, I want to trigger the robot manually. But here you can open and inspect the newly created work item and show actually the metadata, the JSON, in a JSON format, the metadata that the robot will be using to perform the data entry and create the bank profile of the information for Able Tutor in the payroll system. So that's to show the linkage between DocIntel, the flow, and then the banking table, and how we pass the metadata to the robot. The robot can actually perform the task of creating the bank account profile in the payroll system. Let's now, the last step is to show the remote desktop, the VM, and show in Studio how we can trigger the robot, and maybe show how we built that robot. So I'm connected to that virtual machine that we use for that shared demo environment, and there is an icon at the bottom there and a shortcut there, and this is to open the Acme PD app. So this is probably good to explain that this is a legacy app we have automated with an RPA robot. So we build the robot in RPA Hub, the ServiceNow RPA technology, and the robot will grab the metadata from the queue, the work item in the queue we just seen, and then perform the data entry like I'm showing on the screen. So you can show, before we even open Studio, show that legacy app so they actually understand that the robot we've created is going to automate this. And then when I open Studio, always verify that I'm connected to the instance. I always click on publish. This kind of force the authentication to happen again, so I don't time out. I'll verify that the bot process is assigned. If not, just making sure I select the bot process there and click OK. At this point, you can explain, what it is Studio and how it works. I'm not going to do it there. I just want to show you what can be demonstrated with for that particular direct deposit use case. But at this point, if you click the Run button, it's going to open the PD app and take the work item that has the status pending, and then perform the data entry. So I'm just going to do that. is going fast, so want the customer to, tell the customer to pay attention before you click on the run button. So when I show this, I oftentimes explain how we close the loop with the process. We are triggering another subflow that's gonna flag. That subflow is just flagging that records, changing a field on that record to say, hey, we've created the profile in that payroll system. So we flag it as HR is synchronized. And you can feel free to show it. So it really closes the loop. So this is called a workflow on that instance to update that banking record we've seen previously. I'm just going to show it to you. So in case you need to show it. All done. So I'm back to the banking record and what the robot is doing at the very end after performing the data entry in the payroll app. The robot is triggering a workflow that's updating the HR sync as true. And this is kind of finishing the process. At this point, we know we've validated the data, we synchronized, and everything was fully automated using DocIntel, Integration Hub, and the robot. And if you want to finish your demo nicely on some kind of dashboard, feel free to go back to Automation Center and explain that the Automation COE team can use Automation Center to see how they are tracking in terms of ROI and saving and impact they have on the business with all the automation projects they've been running. And so that's kind of a nice way to see, okay, you're building as an Automation COE team, you're building a lot of automation, and how do you make sure this has a true impact on the business? So this Automation Center provide that view. And how we are able to provide those numbers on this screen is because when we capture the automation request, we've asked about the number of times we execute the process manually, how long it takes to execute, and the potential saving, etc. So now that we know it's automated, because also we are able to collect execution data from our automation tool, we know how often we've run that automation, so we are able to expose those numbers on those dashboards. So we can expose automation execution data from our RPA tool, and Utah will be able to expose Integration Hub data, Flow Designer, and we also have the data model to import data from other RPA tools such as Automation Anywhere, Blue Prisms, and UiPath. And also, we're going to have a specific placeholder in the CMDB to be able to import data from any automation tool. So we'll be able to really have this one single pane of glass to bring visibility into all the automation processes running in the organization. So that's kind of it. We've closed the loop and finished the demonstration on Automation Center. Feel free to readjust the talk track. You don't have to stick to my talk track, but I wanted to share what can be shown using that demo environment, this shared demo environment.